There we go. Welcome, 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 everyone. It is me, Nina Sachs, and I am excited that I get to speak with my good friend. We kind of like hang out every week, actually, Andrea White. So, Andy, we are going to kind of delve into your world in a little moment. It's all about cyclical living. That's kind of like what you're doing. You also have another website called Ova the Moon, where you have all your amazing products on, from calendars to journals to cards to beautiful artwork and a whole load of other things as well. And I definitely want you to share about that as well, kind of like in our chat today. But I wanted to chat with you because I think our journey started across, I don't really actually even know where, but in the yoga world. Like we were kind of like yogis. I think you came and was teaching at the studio for a while. And then kind of like you were known as kind of like yoga therapy with regards to like prenatal and all of that and delving into women's wellness, blah, blah, blah. And then somehow in all of this, you transitioned into kind of like this whole creative side of things and delving a little bit deeper into like menstrual awareness and. Anyway, so like where were you, how did things happen, and why did you transition? And welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks, Nina. Yeah, we get to hang out quite a lot, you know. Shame it's not more in person, but countries divide.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I think we met over 10 years ago, or yeah, maybe 7 years ago, when I first moved to South Africa. And I was like, hey, yoga people, where are the yoga people? And you were very accommodating and very welcoming, and yeah, that was great. So yeah, when first met me, I was teaching prenatal well woman yoga. I was already on the journey of sort of menstrual cycle awareness. I'd been practicing that. That's why I was doing the well woman work. But
like at a time like 7-10 years ago, like where that wasn't really big in like the yoga world. Like everyone was just doing like their ashtanga or vinyasa or kind of like, you know, the integral yoga. Like there wasn't too much of this like prenatal menstrual awareness. No one was talking about it. I mean, I know I also did some coaching with you on menstrual awareness, and I was like, wow, like in my 30s and didn't know any of this stuff, or not didn't know it, just wasn't made aware of it. And then we were working together a little, and it was like, okay, like there are cycles to life. Okay, sorry, so I'm digressing on the story, but
no, it's right. No, because that's it. It's like, well, this stuff was there, but I was working with it in the UK and a little bit in Tanzania before I moved to South Africa. And I always found it a real struggle. I always did it through the yoga, because the yoga was a really nice avenue through pregnancy, through well woman circles. So we do a bit of yoga, and I can, you know, bring in the cycle awareness stuff. And it was always like seed planting, I felt it was at the time. I then trained with Red School, who I'd been working with for a while in the UK. Went all the way back over to the UK, and trained with them about menstruality and leadership. So using the menstrual cycle as a leadership tool, and how it can, you know, navigate our lives, and it's like pretty much our superpower. Yeah. So coming back, I started doing some coaching with that, but again, still not just trying to find ways to share the stuff, you know. And
it's not your average thing that you're going to be whipping out in conversation when you're at a dinner party or something, because women and men don't really like having to acknowledge or talk about these things.
Except I do. I'm the person that will talk about it. and that's through years of confidence and just like owning what I do. And it's a mutual thing. Like actually working with you over the last 2 years has given me the confidence to really hone into what my values are, what my goal is, what my purpose is, where I want to be. And I think, yeah, you're very much part of this journey as well. I mean, I still teach yoga, so it's not that I don't teach yoga. but that has evolved, and everything is always evolving, and that is what my connection is. So with you and as well, through pregnancy, I had my daughter, and going through that, and then so that was a very big shift in me, and like really those are the big shifts in our lives that we sort of start to really home into what we want to do with our lives, what we want to do when we grow up.
Yeah. There's like one big thing, a couple of big things that you're talking in there. One of the thing is like stepping into the confidence and owning what you do. And I think often we struggle with that. I know I have struggled with that for a long time and still do, honestly. And it's so nice when we're in that space where we can actually step into a tea party, a dinner, and be like, this is who I am, this is what I do, and not do it from like an ego perspective, but just a fully grounded and earthed, and knowing that that is like a true belief, a true value to what one is all about.
Absolutely. It's like, it's knowing like your bigger picture, what you are, what what you're here for, that's maybe, a personal choice. Like, what am I doing? What do I want to do with this life? And what really am I passionate about? And it's having those conversations in your head. And then when you get into a social situation, you downplay it. And then you're like, oh, I kind of do this. And then you make things accessible for people. And that was what I was doing a lot of the time. I was downgrading myself and not owning what I do, because I've helped a lot of people, but I would, through fear and stigma. I mean, menstruality has a lot of stigma still around. So I would try and make people feel more comfortable about it. And actually, to get past all these stigmas, we need to have open, honest conversations. So, I feel that that's a lot of part of my role, is to keep these conversations open. And another point is, when you touched on the confidence, a lot of it was, so I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this like over 10 years, before I met my husband. So he's always known about this stuff with me. And you say like 7 years ago, there wasn't a lot of this. And now if you go on social media, it's all about menstrual cycles and awareness. And for me, it was like, but these people have just like learned about it like 6 months, and they're like plastering over. I'm like, how have they got the confidence to do this and I don't? Because I've got the experience. It's the same with us sort of yoga teachers that are, we're not high flying celebrity yoga teachers, but we've got a lot of experience and we know what we're doing. So I think that's it. And I think it's actually learning maybe from a younger generation that they, have so much unearned confidence. But that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's it's stepping past that imposter syndrome.
Yes. Yeah. There's a really interesting word that you were using a little earlier, and that's this idea of downplay. And that kind of like struck a chord with me, because I realized, like, on my yoga journey, when I started teaching like 20 years ago, and someone would ask me what you did, I'd always be like, so I did my BS, my business science degree at UCT, which is, like your 4-year business degree. But I wasn't actually using it. And I'd be like, yeah, and I kind of like teach yoga. And I always downplayed the impact and the importance that teaching yoga had for me, and the impact and importance it had for everyone else. My studio is still going 20 years later. There's an amazing community that's built around it. And if yoga wouldn't have been that important, if it wouldn't have been that important to me and those in my life, it wouldn't still be going, it wouldn't still be functioning. And I think often, like you're saying, we downplay it because we try to make it comfortable for everyone else. And actually, sometimes we need to have those. Am I back? Okay. Sorry.
You're back.
I am back. What did I say? Where was I? I was like,
yoga hadn't have been that important, it wouldn't still be there.
It wouldn't still be there. Exactly. And if we're constantly downplaying you know, the importance of what it is, and we're making it comfortable for others, we give a little bit of our soul away. And I think if we keep doing, and I think that's why it's taken me like 20 years to build up this confidence again, is because if for 20 years you're always downplaying, you actually don't think you're valued and worth anything at the end of the day. Whereas maybe that's why you're saying, like, you know, those who've just done something for 6 months, you know, and they're on social media and talking about things, because they've never downplayed the importance of what it is they're doing, because they've trained in something, because they believe it, and this is what they want to do. And like you're saying, like, there's something we can learn about the younger generations of millennials, or whatever, whoever it is. You know, you don't have to be then to a millennial just to be in that space, is what I'm trying to say. But it's this idea of actually stopping to downplay what is really valuable to us and what we feel. I think that's such a big part.
I think, yeah, and I think that brings me back to that downplaying. So that brings me how my evolution started. So, yeah, it was like always trying to find ways to share this work, in ways that I knew I could share and be accessible to people. And I think that's when I started. Well, that's when I created Over the Moon. So it's Over the Moon that's done the big transition as well. So Over, she started, it's Over with an OVA.
OVA. You know what I'm going to do? Okay, you know what? I'm going to do a quick screen share while we're talking, because I want people just to have a quick look at your website, because it is beautiful. I think I'm going to have to move us. Okay, actually, if I click on one of these bundles, so it's Andrea White, and that will take me to Over, won't it?
Yes, hopefully. All self-taught, yeah.
Well, this is the other thing, like us yogis, you know, we do self-teach ourselves all these things.
Yeah.
So
that's all about me. Yeah, I think it should take you, I'm not sure. So these are some of my products,
yeah.
So yes,
there we go. There we've got Over the Moon. I love your logo.
Yeah. So Over started sharing self-care boxes around menstruation. It started out as, how do we get the information out to people about menstrual cycles, like a little pamper box around your menstruation, you know, some information, a nice tea, some candles, some nice products and stuff. And so that's how it started off. But I found that a really hard model to use, because yeah, I mean, I actually still do those. I make them bespoke, and then, but people weren't going to buy them for themselves in menstruation. They weren't even going to buy them for their friends or their partners. It was just too niche. And also cost-wise, I'm not like at a price of doing like huge wholesale that I could make, you know, millions of these, a big bundle, you know. So, and also I wanted them to be special. So then I carried on making them for pregnancy and postnatal, which still do quite well.
Okay.
And the information that I put inside was just still quite minimal, not overwhelming. And then I just thought, no, it's again downplaying. I need to sell this information, like not even sell it, share it. I need to share this information. And I'm not too sure. And it came back to the downplaying of me as an artist. So you'd start your journey, you're telling people, oh yeah, I did my BSc, I did my BA honors in fine art and cultural studies. Like, I graduated in like 1999. So a few years ago. And
the other day,
yeah, it's about 10 years ago, right? So when I graduated, yeah, and I was very passionate about art at the time and myself, and I was very scarred actually by the art industry. Working and living in London, working in London and with curating, it was very hard to be in that society, unless you had lots of money. You can do your masters and blah. It was not, so I just got a job like normal people. So it wasn't until obviously it's like went through my yoga journey, my massage journey, and doing all of this work, I've just really realized I came back to this block of my creativity, and the menstrual cycle work, really tapping into that, really owning my cyclical nature, really tapped in to the creativity. And that was the biggest thing. You know, I think creativity and cycles are one and the same. It's that creative process. You know, it's, you look outside, what is the seasons doing? What is the nature doing? What is my body doing every month? It's going through a giant creative process. And then so when I looked at my own, like, you know, creative work, I realized I was just putting a stop to it all the time, you know, by blocking it with, oh, well, people don't want this. And so I just started creating for myself and not thinking, what do other people want? And I think that was the biggest thing, because I'm like, what do I want to make? And that has got the most interest. I made the artwork, I've made these calendars, I've made these journals for me. Like, I've made them purely because I wanted to see them. They needed to be made, and they needed to be made by me. And yeah, I was always waiting for somebody else to make them. But then when somebody else made them, I was feeling disappointed that I hadn't done them. It's like when you see, you know, social media is like that minefield for that disappointment of like, I person's doing, but I was supposed to do that, you know, and I just didn't want any more opportunities like to go past. So I thought, so yeah, and the passion has been because I want to do it, and you know, and I want to share this work.
There's a word that I just wrote down, which is like authentic, and I think that is one of the biggest word. Like, it's, I don't know if I like it or don't like the word, but
used a lot.
used a lot, and I think it's just thrown around a little. And the way that I related when I think of you is that creativity and like cycles, like if I think of Andrea, like that is who you are. It's, you're not putting on any persona, you're not putting on anything that isn't actually truly from your heart and from your soul, and that you're actually living. It's like a lived experience. It's like you, when we speak every week, you know, you've either been out in the garden and you've been sowing seeds, or you have been out with Willow and, you know, you've been collecting goodies and doing stuff. And there's always like a creative project on the go. Like, you guys like embody creativity. Even if you just look like behind you, you've got like artwork on the wall, and like your books are like color stacked, because like it's not like size, you know, that most people have. Like, it's in their colors. And it's just a different way of operating and navigating that I find you live by. And I think that speaks volumes, and I think that then comes through. And I love what you were saying about like the products, that you made them for you, because there was, in a sense, something missing in the market. And even if I would go so far as saying, like, you know, if you would have maybe picked up a journal and would have thought, oh, you know, I wish I did this, there was probably something in that journal that was still missing, that you felt like still needed to be included, or something in a calendar or a deck of cards that just wasn't like hitting the spot completely. And I have a feeling like that's why you've now like come onto the market with your amazing, beautiful products. I'm just going to go back to Ova and kind of like share the website again, because like you've got your you know, your journal for next year. You've got your desk calendar, which I have for this year's one, and it is absolutely beautiful. The coloring mandala ones, I mean, I just think of like Sham when she's one of the teachers at the studio, and this is like her meditation. Like, she'll just color in, and it's so, like, this is like the perfect gift for, and it's not just like for yogis or anyone who's into yoga, but just if you're thinking like that someone loves coloring in, like this just takes you to another level. And like you were saying, like you've got your, you know, your mom, your pre and postnatal mom decks, and your cards. I've still got my like over cards there. So I just wanted to bring people to the shop, because I think it is like, if you look at all the artwork, like it's your artwork. It's not, it hasn't been done on, I don't know, pictures drawn in from Canva or whatnot. It is actually you having drawn and colored and created. And that means that there's like a part of your soul in there. and your wisdom and your knowledge. So like now that I like look at my calendar that's hanging up, it's like those colors, like I get inspiration from that, and it makes me happy, and it makes me smile. And I, as much as we can get that from like photographed calendars or this, that there's something missing. I don't know. To me, there's something missing if it's just stock standard and it hasn't actually come from the person
that's a part of creativity as well. Like creativity, it's something that's kind of drummed out of us at school. I think they're saying there's some statistic, I'll have to, don't quote me on the statistics, but most people's creative energy is lost in like early days. Dogs. Yeah, it's lost in that early years at school, you know. I remember being told that as an artist, you know, you can't be an artist when you grow up, you need to get a proper job, you know.
Yeah.
And you forget those little seeds are planted within you, and you're like, no, I can actually. And it's actually taken me years, probably about 40 years, to reclaim the word artist. You know, I am an artist, I am a creative. And we hide by other words, going, oh, I make things, or I'm a crafter, or I'm like, no, I'm an artist. And that was really a nice, powerful claiming back.
It comes back to the word from earlier of downplaying, like actually stepping into that feeling like I am an artist. I like acknowledge and I own and I honor that. And
So, and I don't have to, my work doesn't have to be good. Anybody's work doesn't have to be good. Creativity is about connecting to those creative cycles. Even if it's somebody else's creative cycle, you enjoying my artwork is part of my creative process. That's all part of it. The way when I share my work, what you do with it is the continuation of into your creative process and how that inspires you. And I don't have to control what you do, you know, how you react to my artwork. I think that's what we do a lot. How do we react to, you know, what you're putting out into the world? You know, not everyone's going to like it, right? You're not everyone's cup of tea, and that's absolutely fine, because there's a lot of people that will love you. And, you know, even if it's one person, and I think that's what when you're creating, you know, it has to be for yourself.
Yeah, that's such a good point, because I think often we create things or we put things out there to fit the market, because we need to make a living, we need to do whatnot, and it's all valid and it's all fine. And if that's what people need to do, that's what people do. There's no wrong and right. I just find like when I see your work, again, that word authenticity like pops up. It's kind of like it comes from a different place. And I'm intrigued and interested to find out what role you think yoga had played in your life to help. Did it help to bring that out or solidify that for you, or like, and how much yoga is still part of your life? That's another question. Like, you know, because there's all this creativity now, like how have tables turned and changed for you?
Okay, so I think with the rise in my confidence with my creative work, a lot of myself has been fulfilled in creating and sharing a lot of my work. So yeah, and there's it was like from COVID and stuff, for about a year I didn't teach, and it was actually a really nice break. So I've been teaching solidly for years, and like, you know, before I moved to South Africa, I was like teaching, you know, 3 classes a day almost. It was intense, but I had the energy and it was great. And I taught all sorts. I taught Ashtanga, I taught Hatha, I taught Well Woman, I taught pregnancy, you know, a bit of everything. But it gave me a pause to think about what I really wanted to do. And I, you know, realizing, and then it came to me, I was called again to teach the pregnancy yoga. And offer the training for that, which was beautiful. And that made a lot of space for me to train up other yoga teachers in pre and postnatal yoga, and remind myself I do know some things. I think that's always when we teach, it's passing on knowledge, and that was a really beautiful experience. And I realized I did really want to keep teaching. So but I decided I just wanted to keep things low. So over the last 2 years, I've only been teaching maybe 2-3 classes a week. And that's been lovely. But it's like, but I want to teach what I want to teach. Again, not hiding behind, I can teach Ashtanga. I used to love Ashtanga, but as I've got older, my body's changed a lot, and it doesn't resonate with me as much, like maybe every, I don't know, 6 months.
Sorry, my internet dropped again. Every
That's
6
okay.
months.
Every 6 months, I might get on my mat and do a whole Ashtanga routine, and it might feel great or it might feel sick. But what I found, and it brings in with the cyclical work, which I, use in my cyclical work in my yoga, which I have done for years. This has been my personal practice, wasn't aligning with what I was teaching. Although I would tell people, listen to your body, now what I teach is, when people come to my classes, if you've been to any of my classes, they are very intuitive. Is it yoga? Yeah, of course it is. But I would call it more intuitive movement. I get, and I don't expect you to, I'm not going to tell you what to do and you follow me. I'm going to invite you to explore your body. And that's my intention when I set up my classes. And I really enjoy that. And people seem to really be receptive to it, and it's not like if you were to come to my class that you don't go to the vinyasa class the next day. And I work in a very nurturing, creative studio that a lot of the students come to all the different teachers and all the different classes. So it's really nice and nurturing in that way, that everyone encourages everyone to try something new, because we need different things on different days and different times of the month. And that's where I am with teaching. And how that has, your question was about how that's influenced my creativity. I think I use my yoga the same, it's another modality of how to express my creativity now. The same way I use my journal, right? It's tuning into my body, using the meditation, using the yoga to tune into, like, what do I need today? And that's the question I ask myself every morning. Like, hi, Andy, how you doing? Like, what are we doing today? What do we need? And you're like, oh, I've got so much to do. And you're like, yeah, but what do you need? So you've got all this stuff to do, and that stuff still needs to be done. But it's almost like a nice person coming and saying, what can I help juggle this stuff? How can we navigate all the to-do list and make you feel good as well? And you're like, well, maybe I could do with a nap today. Or I've got so much to do. Maybe I'm just going to have to take the shortest 5-minute meditation. That's going to have to see us through for the next few days. It's not an ideal situation, but the yoga practice is adaptive around that. And it helps me tune in. It helps me really just keep aligned and tuned in to what I need, and come back to that nature that I have.
Again, so much in there that I want to unpack. I think the way I'm going to start is like where you were ending, where it sounds like just giving yourself permission.
Yeah.
Like giving yourself permission to ask yourself what it is you're needing in the moment right now, and trusting that your yoga wisdom experience, years of doing it, or however long it is for any particular person, if they've only just started for a week, trusting that week worth of yoga will be enough support for them to answer the question, like, what do I need right now? Or what am I needing? And giving yourself permission that things don't have to look perfectly. Like, I don't have to do an hour-long yoga session, this week, this month, this year, because my schedule is too full. Like, it is okay to do 5 minutes of a meditation if that's all I'm capable of. So it's kind of like, seems like it's giving ourselves permission to be truthful and honest with where we're at, and giving space for the yoga to support us there.
It's important that we say the permission. And it's a fine line, because when people hear me talk about like listen to your body and give yourself permission to rest, or this, people can either see it as an excuse to slack off or I always use the sort of donut analogy, because it, you know, I do like donuts. The analogy is like, what do I need today? And you're like, come on, you really want the donut? And you're like, I'm going to give myself permission for that donut. It's, you know, you deserve it. You know, like, is that, that's not the awareness. Like, yes, we can all do that, but really tune in to say, okay, body, but how's that donut going to sit? You know, do you need all that sugar right now? Is that what you really need? Sometimes the answer is yes. It's like, no, this is what I really need right now. Maybe I won't have the whole thing, but most of the time it's not. It's the same with self-care. It's not a permission just to indulge. I think that's the word I was looking for. It's not a permission to indulge in procrastination. It's not a permission to indulge in unhealthy habits. It's really tuning into your body and an awareness of, you know, what you need on a deeper level. So I mean, with you, I've worked with you, my post evening putting my daughter to bed routine was always to come out and have a little bit of a snack, you know, some crackers, maybe some chips, or maybe a little bit of chocolate, you know, like, wouldn't go crazy, but just a little. And everyone would be like, that's fine, it's a little bit's fine. But I realized that wasn't what I actually needed. So tuning in deeper, actually I needed a little bit of comfort, I needed nurturing, I needed sweetness. So I started giving myself those sweetnesses in other ways, like a little getting those nice oils out, giving myself foot and hand massage, relaxing, turning the phone off, you know, just having a little bit of space to myself, maybe doing a little bit of coloring in or drawing, you know, even just chilling out with, you know, my husband, watching some TV together. That was fine. It was just, I didn't need the other stuff. It was something that wasn't there. But that took a lot of awareness. And that's the thing, when you ask yourself these questions, like, how do I feel today? It is a practice. You know, we're not going to have the answer straight away. And that's why when people learn about menstrual cycle awareness or learning about yoga, when you get on the mat, someone new to yoga, they're like, how does that feel? And they're like, I have no idea. It just hurts. You know, they don't know where it hurts. And it's only through practice that we come back every day and just question our body, question our mind, question our emotions. That's the awareness practice. Whether it is the cycle, whether it is on the mat and yoga, whether it is, you know, with the pen or a paintbrush.
Yeah. I love that donut analogy. I think people can relate to that, because it is, we so often just go for the quick fix and, like, you know, something sweet or whatnot to placate a feeling, an emotion, or whatever it is. And actually, if we're able to just sit with it and be like, okay, like, what is Nina really needing now? Like, maybe it's connection. Maybe, like you were saying, like, you know, what you wanted in the evening was just kind of like that downtime, that connection with self. That's like self-care. It's like that, like, you know, you just want to give yourself a hug. And yes, the donut or the chips or whatnot, they're going to, on the surface level, do that. But deep down, it's never going to reach, you know, what the depth of what one is needing. And so when one can go there, that is great. So thank you for bringing in that analogy. The other one that I just wanted to touch on that you brought up with, and I think that is so important for a lot of people, and we'll wrap this up soon because I know we've been going on, is this idea of like pausing. And like COVID got you to pause and to reassess and take stock of like where am I, who am I, what are my values, like what am I needing? And I think a lot of people did have that pause forced on themselves in COVID, which I think is, you know, is a good thing. When you follow cyclical living like you do, you see that there are the seasons. We see that winter is like this time of pause and reflection and having some quiet time. And we can then work it into our lives so that we give that ourselves that. When we just go, 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 and we think it's like spring and summer all the time. And, you know, like you were saying, you know, you were just teaching yoga and you were doing like 3 classes a day and you were going from this. If we don't actually pause ourselves in whatever that looks like, we don't allow the other little seedlings that are there, that are ready to come up, that are our true nature, to arise, and then to allow them to blossom. Because if you wouldn't have done that, I don't think you would have been in a position where you're creating yearly calendars, where you've now got your first journal out, and things like that. How important is that pause?
The pause.
And we create pause in our busy life, I think.
Every day, every week, every month. I mean, I'm, you know, with I practice menstrual cycle awareness and I still have a regular practice, a regular menstruation and practice. I get that lesson every month. So I was sharing with you, you know, I'm just about to come into my menstruation. So my mental, physical energy is waning. Like, I know I need to slow down. I've been on a very busy month with my work, and there's an enforcement. I mean, I don't even have to consciously think about it now. Everything starts to slow down. My brain drifts off a little bit. My family know where I am because, you know, I'm staring into space whilst I was cooking dinner last night. You know, there is a pause, and the pause is so important. Because the pause is, like you say, it's the seed planting, but it's also the fallow, you know, it's about the nothingness, it's the stillness, there's always stuff going on, but just allowing things just to be is the most powerful thing we can do. And that's hard because we want to fix and do, and how do I fix this? And actually nothing is sometimes, and just being with an uncomfortable feeling, you know, like, what is that I'm needed? I'm hungry. Like, just sitting with that. Like, what do I need to do right now? Do I need to pick up my phone, or can I just sit? Can I just look out the window for a minute? Having those pauses are really important, because what they do, they connect us to a deeper level of our consciousness, into our inner wisdom of like our intuition of things. You know, we tend to bypass our system a lot, like you're saying. You keep going 100%, 100 miles an hour, and if we slow that down, we can really tune into what we need, but also those creative gifts bubble up, you know, ideas, clarity of where we see things, problems that we thought about 2 weeks ago, all of a sudden in that stillness can just, oh yeah, that's the answer. You know, it's like bubbling over inside, and then it pops out, and, you know, things that feel that are relevant anymore. Like,
you were talking about, like, oh, what it was bubbling up, like, you know, when it bubbles up, giving space and bubble up. We were kind of like there.
Yeah. So clarity can bubble up, you know, questions that you've kind of, or problems you've noticed earlier on in the week, the month, they can, you know, if you allow that pause. In my training with the Red School, there's a nice phrase that we use, is like, bleed on it. You know, like when people say sleep on it. Like, sleep on a problem. If you bleed on a problem, it's the same thing. It's like, if you take rest on a problem, you know, don't try and fix it right away. Just let it settle. Then the answer generally sort of kind of pops up. Yeah. So just allowing those pauses.
Or like my internet allows us to have a pause as well. Like,
always.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. The way load shedding in South Africa allows us to pause.
So what's, out of interest sake, what, you've been doing this work for so long, and you really like deep in it now, and you know, can pick up on people very quickly, you know, if they are, you know, in tune with their own, especially women, with their own cycle, with the cycle of the seasons and nature. I'm assuming probably 90% of the people that you see on a day-to-day basis are probably not living in that awareness. Like, what do you notice? What is the first thing that you notice with people when they're not taking a pause in their life, when they're not acknowledging those?
So yeah, that's an interesting question. I do notice where people are, but the important thing is to know this work is going on whether you're aware of it or not. But the cycle is always working you. The menstrual cycle is always working you. The seasons are always working you. You can fight the system. You can try and hack the system, and that works for so long, but it will catch up. So the catch up in the form of sickness, exhaustion, burnout, overwhelm, all of these things, and then people get over it. They have a week in bed, they recover, and the body's amazingly resilient, and it will get back on it again. But I think this has a toll on us over long term. So with the menstrual cycle, if you ignore these symptoms year after year, some people really struggle when it comes to fertility, pregnancy, even premenstrual problems. And it's not that not listening to your body causes, these problems. It's just that if you dig a little bit deeper, that something's not right and that you might need to see help. It's that sort of awareness. When people aren't listening to, slowing down, and not related to menstrual cycles, but just on a day-to-day busy, you can see, and I see the menstrual cycle, or whether you're following the moon or something, or the seasons, is a really good tool to use to say, is it time for a rest yet? And if it's not, like, we have to do it in the day. We have to sleep, right? We can't hack that. We need to sleep. And it's just following your body's cues. When you're tired, sleep, go to bed. When you need to rest. And knowing that there will be a productive time more if you get that rest. Your inner summer will be more productive if you allow the rest in your winter. You can't do it. You can't live through life in the positive energy all the time. You need the darker arts of rest and decay. And
and just from my own personal experience, because this, I'm just trying to think, over 25 years now, I have struggled with menstrual issues and problems, and period pains and PMS symptoms, big heavy boobs, sensitive boobs, migraines, name it, and I've probably had it. And it probably has only been, once I started working with you and like looking at the seasons and being like, Nina, okay, like there is a winter period. There's a winter time when it's resting. And if you don't work up towards taking that rest and pausing and slowing down, your body will make you go and, lie in bed, and you will want to go and take the pond stand because the pain is so sore. And when we start to, and the beautiful thing with being a woman is, like, every month we can get reminded of, like, step into rhythm with yourself. And if you're not going to do it, I will get you to do it. And some of us maybe, struggle a little more with that and not. And some of us take a slightly longer time to learn the lesson than others. But
it's never too late.
It's never too late. That's the thing. That's exactly it. It's like, now this year, I have felt so much better than I have, like, through the last 25 years of, like, having a period, and able to navigate that with ease. And yes, like, probably heading through into perimenopause and things like that. But I can do it so much more easily and with so much more clarity and so much more love for myself as well, than where, instead of like fighting it and like dreading the period that's coming, it's been like, this is going to be the time when I'm slowing down, and I can honor and I can acknowledge myself, and I can be super grateful that I'm able to have this body and go through these processes instead of pushing and forcing.
But it also ties into the work that you've been doing with your own natural rhythms and cycles and healthy eating and getting your own life into balance. So by tuning into your cycles is another layer to that. And I can see you also through the process blossoming even more in your coaching with the rhythms and the cycle work, and how, when I started working with, like, doing meal plans, so I went and took my meal plan and I divided it into 4, and I've got inner, summer, and I saw the other day you did it as well. I'm like, she's done it finally.
Takes
but
her a
it's
while,
for
but
me, but that's the thing. And you were teaching me about meal plans, but then, now you've got the cycle work behind the meal plan, and it's, how the work works together. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah. Sorry, Carter just wants to come and say hi as well. Okay, so to wrap up our conversation, because I've absolutely loved this, and we're going to have another one definitely in the new year. For now, for December, Christmas, New Year, journals, like Over the Moon, where can people find you, the work that you do, what you're all about, and things like that?
Yep. So either through my Over the Moon website, it's over, OVA, themoon.co.za. That's where you can find my shop and all little information about my work, about my bit about more me, and my creativity workshops, my menstruality work, World Woman Yoga, all that kind of things that sort of that come from me personally, like me as the commodity, is andreawhite.co. So no Z on the edge, just CO at the end. So you can find it there. Yeah.
Brilliant. Great. I love your artwork. I love the work that you're doing. I love that you've just stepped into owning who you are and your creativity, and just embodying that fully. I thought
my colors. And I love the rainbow, and that's why my work looks like a rainbow threw up all over it. It's fine,
Thank you so much for having this chat.
Thank you.
Sharing. It's so good, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Nina.